This is going to seem a little strange. You'll hear my voice. You'll see the board interact, but obviously I'm not here. Please take out a clean sheet of notebook paper. Label it number 8, metric notes. Please take a sheet of paper out now. Thank you. After labeling metric notes, draw a line that clear across the top of your paper. This is going to represent a meter stick. Draw it now. Best as you can, does not have to be perfectly straight. Mine's not. We know from the tape last time in our discussion how a meter came about. The Pharaoh's arm wasn't consistent. The king's foot wasn't consistent. So they took the earth, they'd already measured how big it was, divided it up into units, and they get this size that you see in front of you. It ended up becoming a meter. Now that works for all kind of measurements, how tall you are, how wide your desk is, the height of this room. But sometimes they want much bigger units, and sometimes they want much smaller units. And they always use the decimal system, base 10, in the metric system. It's much easier than the old 12 inches in a foot, 3 feet in a yard, etc. So, starting with a meter, you would chop it up into 10 smaller pieces and do this as best you can on your paper. Doesn't have to be perfect. One-tenth of a meter, or 0.1 of a meter, and lowercase m is the abbreviation for meter, is equal to 1 decimeter. Decimeter is small d, small m. Please write this down. So a decimeter then is about that long. If you wanted to measure, how big is that number up there? Oh, it's about a decimeter. Let's see, this little box here is a little more than a decimeter tall. It is about 1, 2, about 2.2 decimeters wide. My word meter is about 1.5 decimeters long. So it's pretty good for measuring smaller objects. Well, tinier objects, you need tinier measurements. So you take this decimeter and chop it up into 10 smaller pieces. There, not perfect. Do the best you can. Do better than I did. Ten of these, 20, 30 of them, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You can see then that a unit that little would be 100th, 0.001 of a meter will become known as 1 centimeter. That's abbreviated little c, little m. A centimeter we said the other day is about as long as your little fingernail is wide. So if you wanted to measure how thick your book was, you might use a centimeter. If you want to measure how long your pencil is, you might use a centimeter. Now for smaller objects, you need even smaller units, and they go on and on and on and on, but we're just going to use one step lower. So if you took one of these tiny increments and chopped it up into 10 tiny pieces, and each of them is about as wide as pencil lead is wide, you would say, well, gee, there is 1,000 of these little teeny units. There is 1,000 of these little teeny units. 1,000 of them in a meter, so 1,000th of a meter became known as a millimeter. Abbreviated little m. Now, the ruler that you're going to be given today, the meter stick, I should say, that you're going to be given today, has some numbers that I have written on it, because I like my numbers better. The whole thing, of course, is a meter, but right here you'll see a number 1. There are 2, 3, 4, etc. And they're written right on there. Each of them is a decimeter. Each of them is a decimeter. And I'll refer to them as the big numbers. You also have the tiny numbers written on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in between that. Those are the little numbers. Those will be centimeters. And then the teeniest tiny little dashes that don't have numbers on them, each of them is a millimeter. So take a moment. Each table needs a meter stick. They're not swords. Do not do anything silly with them. Don't make a bad choice. I'll hear about it. Thank you. Pass them out now. Once again, each table has a meter stick. Share, don't fight over them. Spread the tables out so there's a little bit of room in between each table if there's not already some. Give yourself room to work. Alright, now you see my silly red table up here. It's supposed to look like yours out there. That blue thing is my meter stick. It's obviously not the real length. Take the end that has the 1 on it and put it near, line it up to the edge of the table. That would be, of course, 1 meter. Take your pencil. Yes, listen to this. Take your pencil, put a mark on the table right there. Yes, right on your table. Only time I want you to do it, all your problem. Now, slide your meter stick till it hangs over. Yes, slide your meter stick till it hangs over. Person next to you, don't poke them. If you get poked, it's an accident. Don't make a bad choice. All right, I've slid mine over. The next question is, how many decimeters more is it than the first meter? Well, I'm looking at the big numbers now. I refer to the big numbers. And I see on mine that it's past the 3, but not yet to the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once again, my blue meter stick's not quite perfect, is it? So far we have 1 meter, point 3. The 3, the 1 is the meters. 3 is the decimeters. It is 1 meter and 3 decimeters, or 1.3 decimeters long so far. Any questions? Ask the teacher. All right, you still have more numbers to look at. It's not exactly on the 3, it's not yet to the 4. Mine is past the little 7. When I look at here, it's past, there's the 1, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's past the 7, but it's not yet to the 8. Yours may be different. Your table may be a little wider, a little skinnier. You may not have set it up perfectly on the edge. I might not have set it up perfectly on the edge. But mine is past the 7. So my next number I'm going to write down is a 7. The 7 is the number of centimeters. So far my table is 1 meter, 3 decimeters, and 3 centimeters wide from left side to right side. You go, wow, let's just stop there. No! Your ruler can do better than that. Your meter stick can do better than that. There's itty bitty lines called millimeters. So get your nose down there and count how many itty bitty lines past your number it is. And mine's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 8. Mine is 8 itty bitty marks past the 7th centimeter. And those, of course, as you know, are called millimeters. Now you're saying, it's crazy to measure that far. No, it's not crazy. The word is precise. And that's a word that we kind of used before. I said, well, I'll get to it later on. Precise says, I have a meter stick that is so good that I can measure in the meters, the decimeters, the centimeters, and even in the millimeters. So I'm going to measure it that good. My table is 1.378 meters wide from left side to right side. Later on in this period, you're going to be given a worksheet. It's going, part of it's going to ask you to measure with this meter stick, you and your partner. Don't fight over them, make good choices. Every time you measure with this meter stick, the one that you're given, it's able to measure all the way down to milliliters. It's able to measure 1 place past the decimal, 2 places past the decimal, 3 places past the decimal. So every answer will have 3 numbers past the decimal. It might be a 0. One of those place values might be a 0. It should never be left blank. Never be left blank. Once again, your table might be a little bit longer than mine. Your table might be a little shorter than mine, but I expect it should be close to 1.378, give or take a little bit. On your notes, which you hopefully already have written some of this, drawn the silly table, etc. Wrote down. If you haven't already, you should have. You definitely need the following 7 letters. Large. In the middle, you're going to put a B. Then you're going to go back and evenly space out K, H, D, D, C, M. Please do so now. Please do so. Capital letters. Space them clear across your paper. Don't crowd them together. The metric system has an endless, infinity number of place values. They all begin at a base, at a beginning unit. For distance, the base unit, the beginning unit, is something called a meter. For mass, it's something called a gram. For volume, it's something called a liter. And we'll learn these. But for now, your first base unit is a meter, but the letter B stands for base, or some people like to think of it, beginning. Every time I move a unit to the right, the units are smaller. Please write this on your paper. Every step, every time I go from one place value to the next, from one place value to the next, from one place value to the next, no matter which place value I go down to, it gets 1/10 smaller, 1/10 as big. The letter D is going to stand for deci. You're familiar with that. You already know that a decimeter is 1/10 as big as a meter. It takes 10 decimeters to make a meter. It would take 10 decigrams to make a gram. It would take 10, I'm going to make a crazy one up here, 10 trash cans to make one normal trash can. Now, we go a step smaller. We know the C stands for centi. When we abbreviate it, centimeter will be cm, C for centi and M for meter. And the M, as you already know, is going to stand for milli. 10 millimeters equals a centimeter. 10 milligrams equals 1 centigram. There are smaller units. We're not going to go any smaller in here for right now. When we go the other direction, the units get bigger. All right, all this you should have on your paper. Take a moment. All this, the words, the arrows, all should be on your paper. When you take a meter, a base unit called the meter, and you put 10 meter sticks together, you have a deca, D-E-K-A, D-E-K-A. Make sure you're getting your C's and K's correct. And here's one of the strange ones. When you use deca to abbreviate it, we're going to call it decameter. It's D-K-M. This would be decameter, because I have to tell it apart from a decimeter. Decimeter would just be the D-M. The decaliter would be D-K-L. The decigram would just be D-G, etc. All right, a decameter is 10 times bigger than a base, 10 times bigger than a meter. Let's keep going. Hecto, the H stands for hecta. Make sure you're writing this all down. Don't say I know this. It's up to you. It's your responsibility to have this. And lastly, if I go all the way out here to K, K-I-L-O, kilo, kilometer, or here in America we call it kilometer, is as large as we need to go in this class. There are many, many bigger units than that. We're stopped there. So we just have 7 units. I expect you to know them in order, biggest to smallest. I expect you to know that every time we move to the right, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. Every time we move to the left, they get bigger and bigger and bigger. They're just like place values. They go by tens. Go back to 5th grade, Mrs. Ott, those place values, she pounded in your head. She has a chart up on the wall. I expect you to know all the abbreviations. I might not have given them all to you, just in case. If they're meters, it'd be km for kilometers, hm for hectometers, dkm for decameters. Our base unit is just plain m for meter. We get smaller to decimeter, centimeter, and lastly, I need 2 m's here, one for milli, and the second one for meter. So write those down now, please. Look at it. Last thing I want to say about this is, well, how the heck do you remember those in order? Some people have some neat thing about chocolate milk. I've forgotten that one. Here's how mine goes. Kittens, K, kittens. H, hate dogs. Kittens hate dogs. Because dogs can't meow. Hit kittens. K for kilo. Hate, I know it's not a very nice word. We need the H. Dogs. We need the D. Because we need the B for base. Dogs, once again. Need the D for deci. Can't. We need the C for centi. Meow. We need the M for milli. Now, it sounds goofy. You may have a better one. Use whatever it takes, but you need to know them in order. And quite often you hear me simply say, remember the pet story? If I had someone in the junior or senior and we're talking about metric system, I'll simply say, remember that pet story? They'll know what I'm talking about. You will too. They're going to be put into groups. I'm not a big fan of group work, and I'm not here today. That makes it even more terrifying for me to let you work in groups today. I'm trusting that you can handle it. Please don't disappoint me. I'll find out. Some groups will get ahead of, be done earlier than others. Patiently sit there. Some groups will be using the meter sticks, others will not. Don't bother those people. If you have the meter stick and you need to go to the back room to do something, just let the other people alone. If you're sitting there waiting to use the meter stick, it's not your turn, leave the other people alone. Make good choices.